what really matters when you have the stage and you want people to remember something very meaningful. Reduce the time and you get to what was important from their particular perspective. So thank you, speakers. And we did great time. We started about an hour ago, and we had an hour for the session, having gone over, and so we now have about 20 minutes to end the presentation session and still be on time with enough time for questions. So I'm going to ask our discussant, the president of the Barbados Association, to also be short in her presentation so that we can have the full half an hour for questions and answers.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It was most interesting sitting and listening to everyone speak. And let me tell you, all the stories all over the place, whether it's Trinidad, Barbados, Canada, wherever, all the stories are the same. Now, what is most interesting is sitting here listening to all the speakers and the way in which they're explained to you their feelings, the things they do, and so on about persons with dementia, and particularly listening to our doctor. One of the things I would like to make people understand, and I hope the doctor would agree with me, every time you have a problem with memory does not necessarily mean that you have dementia. And I wanted to make that clear because I've been in a situation before where persons got up and left the room because of fear. And it's not our intention to scare you. So every time you feel that you're forgetting, don't jump to the conclusion that you have dementia. And this is why we have doctors. Make sure you get yourself checked out. But one of the things that the doctor also mentioned that I find quite interesting, and I've done it before and I still do it, the children have to be involved. And it's very important that we get them involved in all the programs that is happening around persons with dementia. Now, caring. Everyone feels differently about becoming a caregiver. We all react in different ways. And the questions goes on in our minds. Why me? Why our family? What did we do to deserve? What caused this disease? And all those questions go on and on and on nonstop. Now, we also know that some people are born caregivers, and some are not even suited for the role. Caregivers must know their limitations, and they must also know their strengths. Now, the question is, ask why. Why am I the caregiver? Is it because you love that person? Do you feel a sense of duty or obligation to that person? Are their expectations of either the person with Alzheimer's or extended family or friends? Is it for financial reasons? A lot of times it is. Those are all the things that go through your mind as a person caring. In my case, I know dementia is very strong in my family. My grandmother had a dementia. My mother had dementia. 3 uncles, one of whom was living here in Trinidad, he had dementia. My brother had dementia at age 51. He died at 61. Extremely brilliant guy who spoke many languages. Now, I tell people I'm not getting it, and I'm not. Because I'm so busy trying to make things happen that I have no time for dementia. Now, education, as Mrs. Provar said, that's very important. We need to educate everybody about dementia. It's everybody's business. The doctor, the lawyer, the teacher, the children, the garbage man. It's everybody's business because at least one person in everybody's family is going to come down with dementia. That's how I see it. There's not one single human being that do not know of someone with dementia. So it's very important that we get our families together, get them to understand. And that's the problem. A lot of families do not want to get involved. Some of them run away because they don't want the responsibility of caring for someone else. In my case, in my office, I get those kind of calls every day. I get at least 5 calls a day in the Barbados Alzheimer's Association office. And some of those calls are where the person have 3 or 4 brothers or 3 sisters and 2 brothers or whatever the case. And that one person is caring for mom or dad. And that's the one that mom or dad do not want. She's the one that she tells them, get out of here, I don't want to see you. And poor you, you're crying. You don't know what to do, but it's mom or dad, so therefore, you still have to look after that person. It's teamwork when it comes to families. I remember taking my mom back in Canada. I took her to the home, and it was the hardest thing in anyone's life to do, especially when you come from a family like ours. We're a very tight family. And when I took my mom to the home, in my heart I'm saying, what am I doing to my mother? But as I got to the door, they were having a lot of activities, and there was dancing and singing and all of these things. And all of a sudden, my mother surpassed me and went and joined the group. And I thought, this is easy. So I left, went back to my home, came back, and there she was, as if she didn't even remember who I was, but she was involved with what's going on. There is no fear in taking a person into a home. But it's also important to make sure that you double check and check that home to make sure it has what you're looking for. Because a lot of times you take them to homes and then the homes are not offering what you want. So you need to make sure that the place that you're taking mom or dad or whoever is well cared for. As I listen to our third speaker, Molly, yes, she does instructions. Every Alzheimer's association, and I know in Barbados, we have what you call participation programs. And in those programs are offered to everybody, the doctors, the nurses, the teachers, moms and dads, everybody at home that is taking care of someone with dementia. At the end of every session, or the sessions, there's a certificate offered. Then there's also our seminars that we give on a yearly basis. At the end of every session, if you're a nurse or a doctor, you get a certificate of accreditation. That's also very important. This way, the nurses, especially the nurses, are kept up to date on what's going on. Because years ago, nurses were not trained to deal with dementia. They're just learning about dementia. So it's up to us, people in the associations, to constantly get after the nursing associations, the nursing councils, the doctors' councils, and people like that, and let them know what we're doing so that they can become involved with what's going on, to keep up to date, to look after our persons who we're supposed to be caring for. I'm skipping through here a little bit because I'm anxious to get to our last speaker. And one of the questions I've asked her is, do you have a national committee of aging within the social services in the division? Is it possible to get Anne on there? Why is that? Exactly. I am on that in Barbados. And I was appointed by the Minister of Social Care. In the Mental Health Commission, I was appointed by the Minister of Health to sit on those as well. And now I'm sitting on the committee for the policy. All right, so I would like to see Anne involved in those as well. Okay, so maybe you can direct. Thank you. There you go, Anne. The attorney. It's extremely important to get lawyers involved, because I know in Barbados, there's always a lot of squabble about who get this, who get that. And a lot of people, as I said before, the children pull off, but the moment the person dies, everybody there fighting for the house. What's important, too, is understanding what she mentioned before. What is power of attorney? Some people do not understand what power of attorney is. So when you have all your sessions, make sure that you have an attorney involved. We have an attorney that's constantly involved with us. I was trying to get him here, but he had court. So unfortunately, he couldn't come. So you see, we need to stretch out our arms. Someone mentioned before about somebody in terms of care, where the person might fire someone. I don't know how many of you know Dr. Bell, Herman Bell, but one of the stories that she loved to tell is where her mother, who also had dementia, and she had these caregivers around the clock. And as the caregiver, one of the caregivers, the mother would fire her. She would say, "Get out my house, you're fired." But that caregiver was creative, and that's what it's about as well, creativity. Creativity, because each person is different when it comes to dementia. So when she fired her, this caregiver was smart enough to pick up her hat, her bag, and everything, and leave and go and sit on the balcony for at least 2 minutes. She came back and she knocked on the door. Her mother answered and said, "Who's out there?" And she said to by name who it was. She said, "What are you doing out there? Come on in." You see? That is creativity. Some people would have left with their bags and go home and not come back. So we need to understand how and what we're dealing with. Some people are born caregivers. Some are not suited, as I said, for the role. You know, we ask the questions and so on that we don't even understand ourselves. We don't know how to deal with the person. We ask the person we're caring for a lot of stupid questions. And I can give you a few things here. In other words, if you're talking to someone who has dementia, you don't look at them and say, these are things you don't say. "You seem sad today. You seem angry today. This must be hard for you. It sounds like you're finding life difficult at the moment." Those are things you don't say. You also don't say, "Pull yourself together." How can you say such an awful thing? What does the person need? You have to ask yourself these things. What do you need right now? What would make you feel better? How can I help? Would you like to come back later, or would you like me to come back later? And now if that person is not able to reply, you're going to say, "I'm going to leave you in peace for a few minutes." Or gently say, "Let's take a walk." Now, there's also the communication that you talk about, and I'm going to stop in 2 minutes. Communication, I could stand here all day, but I'm 2 minutes. Communication is one of the biggest problems we have. We need to learn how to communicate with a person with dementia. And let me tell you something. You need to look at that person. Don't yell at them. And I know in the Caribbean, we have a habit of saying, "Look, come. We want." Those kind of things. You don't do that. You need to call that person by name. You need to make eye contact with that person. You need to watch the tone of your voice. You need to allow that person to also make decisions. I'll give you a little joke. There's a lady that calls me all the time. And one of her biggest problems is that her mother would not stop sweeping. She's at home, but she doesn't stop sweeping. And she's upset because the mother keeps sweeping. My answer to her, "Is that the only problem you have?" "Yes." I said, "Do me a favor. Could you go and buy 10 brooms?" Because the lady is kept active. Yes. And most of the times, there's some of them that can still be active and doing things. Not because, especially in the early stages, it's the latter stages that becomes more devastating. But in the early stages, those persons still are creative. They can still make decisions for themselves. They can even still make decisions about their legal aspects of life in the early stages. Caregiving does not have to be a headache for people, for persons. Because if you, as a person, would stop and think, the first question you should ask, should I become demented? What would I want for myself? And if you can answer that question, you will give all the love and care to mom, dad, whoever, and it should be a hassle. On that note, this morning, I thank all the persons at the panel, the discussions, the enlightenment from all of you, doctors, lawyers, nurses, social workers. All of us had a lot to offer, and it was most beneficial. And I hope you here in Trinidad and Tobago would listen, ask questions. I don't know if you have a department in Trinidad where you have the ladies that go into the homes and care. We have that in Barbados. those are the people too that need a lot of training, and you need to get involved there. And you go in and you offer training programs, because a lot of times those ladies go into the home and they start being accused of taking things they don't want to go back. And that's lack of understanding. So the Trinidad Association need to get involved with that as well. We do on a yearly basis at invitation. So on that note, I thank all of you, the panel, my friend over there, Mr. Delgo, whom I've known since childhood. I listened to him on the radio in Canada. And it's always a pleasure to have you around. And I thank you for offering your expertise and your wisdom and in every aspect of the conference, sharing your knowledge from your father and so on. We do appreciate that. Thank you, and thank you to everyone.